Hi everyone, welcome to Nouvelle. I'm Monique and today we are doing a tat along. We're going to work a little motif. Actually, we're working two little motifs, which are almost identical, but there is a method to the madness, which I shall explain. But before I explain that, allow me to introduce you to the Alice and Wallace motif. Yes, Wallace is a bloke's name, but these two names really have to go together. Initially, I'd named this little motif something different with version 1 and version 2. But that's really boring, so I renamed it as Alice and Wallace. Firstly, to make identification easier, but secondly, these names allow me to have a bit of an inside joke with my mum, possibly at her expense, but honestly, who's going to pass up an opportunity like that? Okay, so why do we have two motifs for one technique? Onion rings can be worked in two different ways. We can have all true rings, or we can have a true ring with a mock ring. Alice shows the true ring method, while Wallace is worked using the true ring mock ring method. While the schematics for onion rings is drawn like this, regardless of how they're worked, written instructions, if there are any, will be different, based on whether the designer is working true rings or mock rings. Now, normally a pattern won't tell you which method to use. It's up to you as the tatter to decide. This decision can be based on preferencing one technique over another. It can be based on your colour scheme. It can also depend on what happens to the outside ring in the next round. If this is a plain ring, we can choose whether we work a true ring or a mock ring. But if the outside ring has something like throne rings coming off it, we have to work a mock ring to enable us to make throne rings along the way. Don't stress, we're not getting that complicated today. So these motifs are the same but different. The ring counts are identical because I want you to see that we can apply both onion ring methods to the same schematic and get two completely different looks. The chain counts differ ever so slightly, and we're playing with our twisted picots just to mix it up a bit and keep it interesting. Alice is our true ring motif. You can work it with a shuttle and ball or two shuttles. Wallace is our true ring mock ring motif. You're going to need two shuttles for that one. We are working both motifs in the one video, so it is kind of a long one, but that's the beauty of the stop button. You can pause it and get as much coffee as you need. There are timestamps down below and the pattern is available on Facebook. You can find it in the files section on my New Bear tatting group. I hope you've got your shuttles loaded. Let's go. Before we start, let's think about what we're going to do with our tails. Now, if you've followed my videos, you'll know I love the magic thread trick. So I'm going to tat over my tails at the start of ring A. My second tail can go into the second true ring, leaving my first chain and my last chain free for the two tails I'm going to have at the end. So that's how I'm going to hide my tails, but you need to use whatever method you prefer. Do what works best for you. The other thing I want to mention is that for the purpose of teaching, I've labelled the onion rings a bit differently to how you'd normally see them written in a pattern. This would simply be onion ring A. It's up to you to work out what's what, which of course is dictated by whether you're working true rings or mock rings. Today we're working Alice with true rings. To make it easier for you to follow, I'm breaking the onion ring down and will refer to the internal ring as onion ring A. The external ring will simply be ring A. I'm working with a ball and shuttle today. So to start, I'm going to take my two tails and just slip them over each other like so. Wrapping my hand for ring A, starting with onion ring A. Our count is 6, picot 8, picot 6. Okay, so I turned my camera off while I was finishing my ring and may have forgotten to put it back on again. So all I've done is finish my ring, close it up. I had a little tail coming out the top here. I've snipped that off just to get it out of the way of what I'm trying to show you next. So we are going to pull our ball thread up so that we've got a bit of a tail there. And I'm going to just pull that through my ring to make the next step easier. So if we hold our ring as if we've just closed it, we're turning it slightly to the right and wrapping our hand ready for the next ring. Start the first half of your stitch, flip it and leave it loose. We want a bit of a loop in here. We're going to take onion ring A and our tail and pass it through this loop. We're following the path of the core thread. So that's why we've put that tail through our ring. It just makes it easier to get it through that loop. Snug that stitch up. The loop needs to sit up nice and close to the base of the first ring. Pull your tail out from the back of that ring. Work the second half of your stitch, and this time we're just passing the tail through that loop. Check that your core thread slides. We're going to finish out the count for ring A. So the count is 4. We've just made 1, so we're continuing with 3, a picot and 3. We're ready to join back to onion ring A. Now usually we join using the thread that's closest to our work, except we're working another true ring. If we use the closest thread to make our join, we'd be using our core thread. That's not going to end well. It's going to give us a knot and our core thread won't slide. So instead we're going to use an onion ring join. This join allows the core thread to slide, meaning we'll be able to close our second true ring. So to make the join, sit your stitches next to your picot. Take your crochet hook, we're going down through the picot, under our shuttle thread. Grab your working thread and pull up a loop. Pass your shuttle through the loop from left to right. And snug everything up. So as you do this, make sure all the slack is taken out of this loop. So we want to take the slack out of that loop, but we want to be careful not to pull it through to the back. You can see if I pull that too hard, it will eventually pop my loop through the back of my picot, and we don't want that. We want it to sit on the top. That's our loop. Our shuttle thread going through our loop. Continuing our count, we're working 3, picot 2, picot 2, picot 2, picot 2, picot 3. We are ready for our next onion ring join. So we're repeating exactly what we did before. Sit your stitches next to your picot, and you can see that's far too big. I need to pull my ring, pull the stitches down through my ring, but that can be adjusted once our ring is nearly completed. So sit your stitches next to that picot, go through the picot, under your shuttle thread, pull that working thread up, and your shuttle is going through that loop. You will find it quite tight to pull that core thread around as well. We are finishing out our count with 3 picot 4. I'm going to pull that core thread down to the base of my ring, and holding everything sandwiched in the pinch, I'm going to pull that loop, that ring closed, and you can feel the stitches tightening around my other ring. So you want to get it so that it sits nice and flat. If I keep pulling that now, it's going to buckle. You can see it doesn't want to sit very nicely because I've pulled it too tight. So you want it firm, but not super tight. You want it to just hug the internal ring. So that's our first onion ring. He's looking a bit mangled because I tightened it to show you what would happen if you pulled your stitches too tight. They kind of never go back the same way. Okay, so we are reversing our work, setting our hand up for a chain. Now we are working 4, a long picot, and 4. I'm using magic loops for my tails, so the first one will go in now. Our long picots need to measure 2 centimetres when open. Now I don't have a 2 centimetre gauge. I could very easily make one, or I can use my 1 centimetre gauge and simply wrap it twice. Holding the gauge up against the thread, I twist it around once, and work my next stitch. I do want to keep my magic loop in there because I've only done 4 stitches, so I want another couple before I end that. That's the next stitch after my picot. Taking my gauge out. I have a 2 centimetre picot. Reverse your work. Setting up for ring B, our count is 5. We're joining back to ring A. Continuing with 3, picot 2, picot 2, picot 2, picot 1. Don't reverse your work. Turn it slightly to the left. Set your hand up for ring C. We're starting with 1, joining back to ring B, then we have 2, picot 2, picot 2, picot 3, picot 5. Reverse your work. And we're chaining 4 along picot and 1. Reverse your work. We're getting ready for onion ring D. Now if this was a regular ring, we'd want our stitches to sit really close to our chain. But it's the first ring of our next onion ring, so we need to leave a tiny little gap which allows room for the second ring to sit in here as well. So we're going to make our ring of 6, picot 8, picot 6. We want just a really small gap in here. Don't reverse your work, instead turn it slightly to the right. Wrap your hand for ring D. Again, we're making the first half but leaving it loose. Passing onion ring D through that loop so it follows our core thread. And snug that stitch up. So you can see that first stitch is going to sit in that little gap that we left when we made this ring. Work the second half. We're working 3 because our count is 4. We just made 1. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're joining back to ring C. Work 3. We're ready to join back to our onion ring again. So again, we're going to use an onion ring join, going down through that picot, under the shuttle thread, and pick up our working thread. Pass your shuttle through that loop. out the slack. And continuing with 3, picot 2, picot 2, picot 2, picot 3. Ready for our next onion ring join. Finishing our count with 3 picot and 4. Bringing my my ring around to the base, sandwiching all of that so I can support my stitches as I pull that ring closed. So you just have to play with it a little bit until you get it sitting nicely. Reverse your work and set up for the next chain. So again, it's 4 long picot and 4. So we complete the motif by simply repeating those steps. The only thing to change is our long picots. Moving in a clockwise direction brings A down to G. We're making our long picots. Moving in an anti-clockwise direction brings G up to A. We're joining back to the long picots, twisting them as we do so. I'm going to come back after working onion ring G to show you how to join the long picots. So I'll be back in a bit. Okay, I've worked onion ring G and the first half of the next chain. You can see that none of my long picots are attached yet. Now the other thing I wanted to point out was I've gone on autopilot at some point. Do you ever tat on autopilot? I really shouldn't. I've gone a little bit off script and I don't know what I was really thinking with these decorative picots. Fortunately they're decorative picots, not joining picots, but they should be consistent. It's just, I don't know, I'm not changing it for this sample. Okay, so we've done our half of our chain and we're ready to join back to our first twisted picot. So to do that, we're going to go, I'm coming up through my picot because I'm tatting front side, back side. If you're tatting traditionally, you'll go down through your picot. We're twisting it 3 times. And again, I'm making a downward join. If you're tatting traditionally, you'll make an up join. And now we finish out that chain of 4. Reverse your work. You're ready to work rings H and I. The following chain joins back to the next twisted picot. exactly like we just did. So work your way around to ring L, where we join back to ring A. Our chain is joining back to the 4th twisted picot. Don't forget your magic loop if you're using one, and I'll see you in a bit. We are up to ring L. We have one more long picot to join. So we're working one, joining back, we're ready to join ring L back to ring A. So we're doing a folded join. Now I'm not explaining this in detail. I do have a separate video if you need help with how to do this particular join. I'm finishing that rung with 5. Reversing our work, we're working that last chain. You'll also need to put your magic loop in if you're using the magic thread trick. And we're joining that picot. Taking my magic loop through as well, trying to. And now finishing out my chain. Pull my tail up, my core up through the front. So I can then take that through the base of onion ring A, making sure I don't pierce my loop, my magic loop on the other side. It's quite tight. We're going to tie a square knot. I'm tying right over left and left over right. Using my magic loops. And again, there are more detailed videos on these using magic loops and the folded join and that sort of thing in the techniques section of my YouTube channel if you need it. I think there, one thing you got to be careful of, I've caught my other magic loop. I don't know if you can see that because it's both yellow. So I just need to pull that magic loop back out before pulling that tail further down. They're hard to see because they're both yellow. Pull the tail through the other side. Well, my picots are a bit tight there, but that will sit nicely with a bit of a block. As I mentioned earlier, Wallace is almost exactly the same as Alice. So this tutorial is going to move a little faster in places where the process has already been explained when we worked the Alice motif. There's a slight difference in the count for the chains. We're intertwining our long picots and we're working true rings with mock rings. For anyone who doesn't know, a mock ring is a chain pretending to be a ring. So it's worked as a chain but pulled into the shape of a ring. Once again, the onion rings are labelled differently to a normal pattern for the purpose of teaching. I've broken it down like I did last time to make it easier for you to follow. I'll refer to the internal ring as onion ring A. The external chain will be referred to as mock ring A, just so our chains, which are mock rings, don't get confused with our chains, which are actually chains. Okay, looking at our tails, I'm using the same positions as I did for Alice. I'm tatting over my tails here and here, and I'm placing loops in my first chain and my last chain. The difference for Wallace is that my second tail is going into a mock ring instead of a true ring. Starting the same way as we did for Alice, I've taken my threads and looped them back on themselves. Using shuttle 1, wrap your hand for onion ring A, and we're working 6, picot 8, picot 6. Don't reverse your work, instead we're turning our ring slightly to the right and setting our hand up for a chain. Again, I'm tatting over tails as I go. I want that tail to come underneath my core thread. before going through that loop. Just makes it neater. Also leaving the smallest gap here, so I've got somewhere to join back to when I get back around. We're working 4. We're ready for the first onion ring join. So just like we did before, I'm just going to pull my tail up so it's out of the way. Actually, I'm going to snip that one off. Normally I wouldn't cut these tails until a bit further on, but I'm going to get rid of them so that they're not in the way. Make it a bit easier to see. Okay, so wrap your chain around your ring. And just like we did before, sit the stitches next to that picot. Crochet hook goes down through the picot under the shuttle thread and pick up the working thread. Pull up a loop and pass your shuttle through that loop. Snug everything up, again being careful not to pull that thread through to the back of the picot. Continuing our count, we're working 3, then picot 2 4 times, picot 3. Working our next onion ring join. Snug your chain a little bit tighter so it starts to curl and hug that inner ring. Make your onion ring join going down through that picot, pulling up a loop. Your shuttle goes through that loop. Finishing our mock ring, we have a count of 3, picot 4. Hold the chain at the base of the onion ring, sandwich the stitches between your thumb and finger, and gently pull it around so that it starts to hug that internal ring. You'll be able to feel the stitches closing around your ring, and just like we did with Alice, we want them to be firm but not super tight. Don't be afraid to play with the chain until it sits nicely. Once you're happy with how it looks, take your crochet hook down through the base when making a lock join. And that is your first true ring, mock ring, onion ring. Reverse your work, setting up for a chain. This is our first chain, so if you're using magic loops, now is the time to put them in. chaining 1, joining picot, five, a long picot, 5, adjoining picot, and 1. Reverse your work. Ring B starts with 5. Join back to mock ring A. And continue with 3, picot 2, picot 2, picot 2, picot 1. Don't reverse your work, instead turn it slightly to the left and work ring C. So I'm doing 1, joining back to ring B, then we have 2, picot 2, picot 2, picot 3, picot 5. Reverse your work. We are chaining 1, joining back to the adjacent chain, finish the chain with 5, a long picot, 5, adjoining picot, and 1. Okay, I hope you've had your coffee, because I'm about to throw you a curveball. When we first start tatting, we put a lot of time and effort into learning why and when to reverse our work. Applying the reverse work rules to our schematic, you'd think that we reverse our work after making our chain to start ring D. After all, the chain is curving up, the ring sits on top. Of course we reverse our work. You'd be correct if we were working true rings, like we did with Alice, except Wallace is a true ring with a mock ring. So we can work our chain, reverse our work for our ring, all good so far. Reverse again to work our mock ring, so working our chain. We're going to finish on the top side of this chain. Our mock ring needs to finish on the underside in here so that we can continue with the next chain. So after working the chain, we're not reversing our work, but we are swapping shuttles. We've been working with this shuttle we're going to work with shuttle 2. So wrap your hand for your ring, and we're working 6, picot 8, picot 6. Reverse your work, set your hand up for mock ring D. As we're working our mock ring, our true ring is going to get pulled around so that it will eventually face the right way up. I'll show you that as we're working. Count for our mock ring is 4. Join back to ring C. And you can see that as I start to make that join, my ring is starting to move. We're working 3. And making our onion ring join back to ring D. And again, that join is pulling our inner ring up the right way. We are working 3, forgot the stitch count, 3, picot 2, 4 times, picot 3. Ready for our next onion ring join. I'm pulling that core thread to start snugging my chain as I go. We're working 3, picot 4. And you can see my ring is almost in the right position. When I make my next chain, that will help to kick that ring around. But for now, we are making sure that our chain for our mock ring sits nicely, and we're lock joining to the base of that ring. Reverse your work. And we're chaining 1, joining back to the adjacent chain, working 5, you can see our rings in the right position. Take your crochet hook and pick up the first long picot, twist it 3 times and join. To your chain. Finish out your chain with 5 picot 1. Reverse your work. Work rings E and F just like we did for rings B and C, and I'll be back in a tick. After completing ring F, I reversed my work. I chained 1, joined back to the adjacent chain, worked 5. We're now ready to pick up our next twisted picot. So we're joining to the second twisted picot, but we want that to come under the first one. Twist it and join to your chain. Work 5 picot 1. I'm just going to run through the long picot so there's no confusion. They are colour coded for you, but I'm just going to run through them all the same. The first and second picots are made as we make those chains. When we get to the third chain, we are twisting and joining back to the first picot. The fourth chain, we're looping our second picot through the first one, twist and join. The following chain, you're making a long picot, leave it loose. Same with the next chain, make a long picot, leave it loose. The following chain, we are taking our third picot, looping it through the first and second picot, twist and join. The fourth picot, coming back to the one that we left loose, it's being looped through the first, second and third picot, twist and join to the last chain. So work your way around to ring L. I'll come back and finish the motif with you. Okay, this is where we're at. We've got our next 2 long picots made, and we've made our final onion ring. So we got around that okay, but I'm now a tad short on thread. That wasn't a planned part of the tutorial, so I thought I may as well show you what I'm going to do now that we're at that point. So I have wound my shuttle again, and as you can see, I'm using a loading loop. Thank goodness for loading loops. So we're up to our next chain. We are going to hope that we have enough left to get this chain sorted. So we're working our first stitch, joining back to the adjacent chain, now we have 5, So that's 3. I'm going to do the first half of my 4th stitch, and then with this second shuttle, I'm just going to lay that on that side and shorten that so that it's around the same length as my second shuttle. We're going to work with double shuttles. So we're working this first half, the next stitch, and you can see that is going to go over both those threads. And I've lost count. I think I've done 5. It's 4. So I need one more. It's my 5. We're going to come back and take our 3rd picot under the other 2. And we're twisting that. Joining back to our chain. Again, both our shuttles go through that loop. We're working with these as if it's one shuttle. And continue making our 5 picot 1. That is our tail, which should be on the back side of our work, so I'll just pull that through. Taking the old shuttle off. We are now working our next ring. Magic loops are in the way. And as we work our ring, we're going to tat over this tail. So we're doing 5. I'm going to run my tail through that join as well because I want it over more than 5 stitches. So wherever your core thread goes, your tail also goes. So there we have our new thread and both of our tails. We're up to joining back to ring A. So again, we're making a
folded join. And finishing that count of 5. I'm going to chop off those other tails so they don't get confusing for everyone. So we're about to deal with more tails. Okay, so that's what we have. We still have our other picot that we need to join to as we make this chain. So I've just closed that ring. We're reversing our work and working our last chain. So this is a chain where you need to pop your magic loops in if you're using them. Work 1, join back to the adjacent chain, start your chain of 5, that's 4, and I'm putting in my magic loop. Trying to put in my magic loop. One more is 5. And we're grabbing our last picot and twisting it through the others. One, 2, and 3 as we come down and join to this chain. So again, got magic loops everywhere here. Again, I want my magic loop to go through with my core. Continue with 5. Now we need to join back to our picot on this chain. and we're working 1. Actually flip that to the wrong side. I want that on the top. Taking our core thread, going to bring it through the front. Because now I can go from the front through here, take that to the back, make sure I'm not piercing any of my magic loops. And that is now ready for me to tie and get rid of tails. So again, I'm just doing a square knot like I did for the Alice. And hiding our tails on the back.
Well, I could have done without running out of thread right at the end. That warranted an extra cut. But I hope it's shown you that onion rings really aren't so scary. Have a play with the methods, maybe swap them around. You could work Alice as true ring mock ring and Wallace as all true rings. Have fun and please post your work to my new bed tatting group. I'd love to see it. See you next time.